Hey everybody, happy Community Manager Appreciation Day 2016. As a community of community managers, we've been gathering on this day to celebrate our profession and each other for 7 years now, ever since Jeremiah Owing said, hey, there should be a day, probably the fourth Monday of January every year, and let's call it Community Manager Appreciation Day, and let's celebrate our industry and everything else. We've been doing these live streams for 4 years now. The last 3 years we've done full 24 hours, literally bringing in people from all around the world. So it's a pleasure to be with you guys here today. Thanks for joining us. For the last 3 years we've done a series of awards where people nominate community managers, and our sponsors help us bring a lot of swag and some actual pretty legit awards that we mail to the winners. And we had over 300 nominations this year, so thanks for nominating your fellow community managers. That's pretty awesome. My name is Brew. I'm the director of Awesome for BTC Revolutions, as well as co-producer of My Community Manager, and just happy to be here with you.
Hi guys, I'm Kristen Cardos. I work in community with Convince and Convert and V3 Broad Suite.
Hey guys, happy CMAD. I am Rachel Miller. I work as a social strategist for Pure Matter.
Hey guys, I'm Barack. I am the founder of Amplify Your Biz, or Amplify Yourself as it's been called all day, and I am the community manager for Meshfire here in Seattle, and I am stoked about today.
Hello, Earth. I'm Dom. I am a community manager and project manager for BTC Revolutions, as well as a co-host with Sherry and Brew on Fridays for Community Manager Hangout. I am like wicked stoked for this panel, so I'm going to fire through this really quick. But I do want to give a shout out to all of our sponsors that made this day and the awards and everything just the literal bee's knees. So shout out to the Salesforce Community Cloud, to Higher Logic, to Online Community Results, to Sprout Social, Vanilla Forums, Zoomph, CommunityManagement.org, SocialMedia.org, Amplify Yourself, Igloo Intranet, and Meshfire. So I'm going to shut my face, and then Brew, what's going to happen?
Well, we won't hear you anymore. It is hour 21 of those 24 hours, and the panel that we're about to just kick back and relax and chill to is the social media burnout. So on hour 21, that's pretty good timing. Why it's real, detox tips, and other short stories. And Daryl, we're going to kick things over to you.
Sweet! All right, thanks, guys. Happy CMAD. Thanks for joining us. I hope you all are just chill right now. Thanks for tuning in. So we're going to start with introductions. My name is Daryl Villacorta. I'm the social media manager at Sprout Social. And I'm sitting next to my co-host, who's also a good friend and coworker as well. Introduce yourselves.
Hey, everyone. I'm Alicia Johnston. I'm a marketing associate at Sprout Social. So I helped Daryl a little bit with social, but before this, I worked for a nonprofit as communications manager, and that involves a lot of social media and community management. So really excited to talk with you today.
Word. So we know what's up with burnout. So with that being said, we'd like to throw introductions to the rest of our panel. Super awesome panel, super close friends of ours. Anybody want to start? Cedar, you want to take it away?
Yeah, let's do that. Can you guys hear me all right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Yeah. So my name is Cedar Brown. I'm based in Chicago. I do social strategy at an ad agency called Havas Worldwide. And that's all I got.
So I think we're just supposed to hop in here. You're right. I'm Jacob Warwick. I founded Think Warwick. I'm friends of the Sprout community. Frequently write articles about being burnt out, I suppose, and how we can tackle all of our challenges. I'm located basically globally, but mostly close to San Francisco.
I'll go. Hi, my name is Nicole Rohr-Stefani. I am the founder of Body Boop, which is a eating disorder recovery and positive body image community. I'm also a content project management person over at BTC Revolutions.
Hey everyone, my name is John Koob. FYI, my lower third wasn't working, and it never works because I have some air. Anyway, thanks to Daryl for the invite to this awesome panel. I'm the social media manager for a startup in Vancouver called Battlefy. We do esport tournaments, and I'm currently working remotely from Iowa City.
Sweet. All right. So to kick things off, it's awesome that you all jumped on for this panel. And social media burnout is one of those topics that I'm like super passionate about. It's something that, having worked in social and building community as well, has been something that's on my mind for the longest time. And again, to anybody that ever uses social, whether you're using it for personal reasons, or to catch up on trends, to stay in touch with family and friends, or to use it for your brand, burnout can happen. And it's one of those things where I feel like that it's a very touchy subject, but awesome of you all to be joining this panel to talk about it. So to kick things off, whether you use this for building community or social media for brands, first question is, how much time is too much time dedicated to social media? Anybody? How about John? How about you?
Yeah, I'll start off. It all depends on the context for me of how much time you're actually spending on social media and what you're actually doing, whether it's on a laptop, phone, desktop, while you're walking, anything. But I would have to say personally, too much time on social media is when I start to forget about my other relationships and priorities in life, and I'm just overly consumed by scrolling through feeds, checking if people mention, brand mentions, things like that, where I'm thinking about my brand or my social media before I'm thinking about my in-person relationships and my in-person priorities. That's when it becomes too much for me.
Cool. Jake, how about you, man?
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate here and say that sometimes there isn't too much time spent on social. But I'm going to kind of tie this in here. I kind of incorporated both my personal and professional brands together so that it made it a little bit easier to say, well, I'm checking on my family, but my family has also become like Daryl from Sprout Social. Like, I actually care about what you have to say and what you do. So I kind of monitor it by making it fun. But I will admit that I took about 6 weeks off where I just you know what, I don't want to talk to anybody, and went from there. But I think as long as you're still seeing inbound results, I'm always so data driven. I'm saying I'm on social as long as I'm getting results back. If people are calling me, inviting me to chats, they want me to write for them, they want consulting or just to go get coffee, then as long as I'm still getting results like that, I don't think I'm on it too much.
Cedar, you want to chime in, buddy?
Yeah, let's do that. So my question or my answer was a little bit more on the personal side for that. For work, I work 80, 90 hours a week for a long time in a row now, and it's not been good. And sometimes social can just really wrangle you into such a hole like that. And you're also trying to pay attention to your personal side of things. But for me, I've learned after the new year, my biggest goal was to be efficient. So on the personal side, I don't think you should spend any more time than an hour a day on social, and that's at best. If you're being efficient with your time and not just lollygagging on a social network, I think you can really get good at being not so FOMO with it and getting what you need out of it. So a lot of people kind of forget what they need out of social on the personal side, and it's to each his own on that one. But on the work side of things, I think some people sometimes think it's easy to work till 10, 11 o'clock at night because they can work anywhere on social. But I think people need to be very efficient with their time and set better goals so they can get done in a typical 8-hour day. I think if you do that, you won't have to worry about being on it at 11 o'clock at night.
Any thoughts, Nicole?
It's interesting for me. I'm very ritual driven in my personal life, so it kind of varies from day to day how much I spend on social media. I don't think there is a set amount that's too much for every individual, but at 8 o'clock, I'm signing off because I want to cook and I want to make my cocktail and I want to put my show on Netflix on the iPad. You know what I mean? So like as long as you've got your self-care set up and you're taking care of yourself mentally, physically, and otherwise, I don't really think there is too much time.
Yeah, I think for me it's when it becomes mindless that it's a problem. So when it stops being about getting on to take a certain action or to catch up with people and to connect, that it really just becomes, you know, skimming through the phone, not really paying attention, but at least feeling like you're doing something. Like that's not a good way to approach social. So following up on that, what do you guys think causes burnout? And any anecdotes you want to share?
I see Cedar smiling,
Yeah.
so you might as well go with it, man.
Yeah, let's go with it. All right, so I think it's burnout. I mean, it happens differently for everybody, but I mean, again, it comes down to just being efficient with your time. If you know what you're going on for, you need to just get this done. And when you're on social, both for personal and for work, sometimes you get on there and you see, hey, one of my friends just had this great update, or I just saw this really amazing article, and that you just kind of go down that wormhole of reading everything and engaging with someone's posts, and then Instagram pops up and you got Snapchat, everything around you all the time. It really just becomes a thing. But I think if you have the right goals each day set up, hey, I need to get this done. You make a list of the things you have to get done for work. Then there's hopefully you're not messing around too much around those goals, and then you get that done in a normal amount of time. But the biggest thing is when it comes to burnout, it's what are you trying to get out of it? Are you trying to go above and beyond? I mean, at that point, is this even going to be any value? Is this going to bring value to your client? Is this going to bring value to your team or you, for that matter? So again, you have to take a step back and look at everything you're about to do all the time and say, will this bring value? Otherwise, you need to just get off of it. You need to not move forward. You need to not sit there and, like Alicia said, not be mindless on there. You have to go on there for a reason, and you have to get it done. Otherwise, you will just be burnt out, lost in the web all the time.
Yeah, so Jacob, it sounds like you're seeing a lot of value from social. So what about you? For you, what causes burnout?
Well, for me, and this goes back to Cedar talking about efficiency, it's trying to be in too many places at one time, particularly when you're in social media marketing or community management, or you're trying to be a quote-unquote social influencer. You're literally like, hey, guys, you have Peach already? Like, really? Do you have every single social network going at every time, and you're trying to keep track of it, and you want to read articles so that you can be on the cutting edge, and suddenly your Facebook picture is a Snapchat screen share, and you're just going like down an endless cycle of trying to be absolutely everywhere, and it's not efficient. I mean, to be honest, when I started opening up my Facebook to my business connections, it started becoming more efficient for me to go on Facebook because it was just much easier to connect with people. And then LinkedIn became inefficient, so I stopped going on LinkedIn as much. Basically, when you bring something else into your life, you need to cut something else out. And Michael Stelzner was talking about this the other day on his Snapchat, go figure. But the more things you add, you need to start taking other things out. So being more efficient on social is very important.
So I'm curious. So like you talk about like adding and then subtracting. So like for you specifically, because I know again you're like a super jack of all trades. Is there a certain platform that you focus on more than something like a different platform, or are you finding more engagement on Twitter or this and that, or?
For me, it was always LinkedIn because I was kind of getting clients mostly through LinkedIn. It was more professional, and it was like that for about 4 years. And then this last year, LinkedIn kind of went down a path of not being very engaging. It's very automated messages, and people are like, "Congrats, you got a new job! Congrats, congrats, congrats!" Like 400 messages a day, and I'm like, "Dude, you didn't even read it. I don't care. Sorry, I even posted an update." But then I started on Facebook, which I was really skeptical of doing, but I realized I didn't really have anything to hide. And then suddenly I was connecting with these influencers. I'm friends with Neil and Daryl. I'm like, hey, let's go get some coffee. And then it started making more sense to me. So I started just axing other ones that weren't performing. And to be honest, Twitter's never really performed for me, but I enjoy it as a way to gather content and see what the community's talking about. And I don't necessarily need to automate a bunch of content out there or focus on it too much. And Snapchat, I just kind of look at every once in a while, like, okay, that's cool, but it hasn't provided a lot of value for me specifically. And Nicole disagrees, so I want to hear what she has to say.
Oh no, I was disagreeing with Dom, who told me there's no such thing as an uninteresting answer. But in the spirit of giving up certain things as you bring new things in, I kind of agree. Like, Facebook has not really done much for like my business page, strangely, but for BTC, I use it for clients all the time. So like I tend to focus on Twitter and Instagram for Body Boop, and Google Plus, LinkedIn, I rarely ever touch those, and you just kind of have to let go of any guilt you're feeling that you have to do everything or you have to touch every platform, because like it really is like what's bringing you the results. That's all that matters. And I also, to this answer, I think, or to this question, I think that saying yes to every opportunity that comes your way is a big issue that I faced when I first started working as a contractor. It was like everything that came my way meant more exposure and meant more money to fund the next thing that I wanted to do, and I just always I felt guilty saying no, and now I have absolutely zero issue saying no, and that's really improved my work-life balance a lot.
Yeah, saying no, I think. Oh, go ahead,
Sorry,
Jacob.
that just means you need to raise your price a little bit more.
Yeah, I was going to say saying no is one of the best skills I think I've learned professionally and personally. But before we move on, John, did you have anything to add on burnout?
Yeah, I was just going to say very quickly, and kind of a blanket statement, is that to me, social media burnout is being stretched too thin. I worked for a digital marketing agency, and I kind of got thrown into it. It was my first experience being a community manager, and I was managing between 5 and 10 different brands' accounts on Twitter, like just to start. And I just remember, like, within the first couple of months, I was like, oh, this is great. And then the more I had to, like, switch up the voice, switch up the mindset, switch up, who I was talking to, I like found myself getting, a little bit depressed here, a little bit depressed there, like more and more. And yeah, just very, very blatantly being stretched too thin emotionally and mentally is when social media burnout happens for me.
Oh, cool. So that's like a nice segue into like our next question. You talk about burnout and what works for you. So for anybody that's like watching this right now, what kinds of boundaries or limits would you say helps to avoid burnout?
I'll jump in. Office hours is like huge for me. I mean, it's like I didn't do that the first year I worked as a contractor, and I definitely felt it. Like the end of the year is the busiest time for BTC and for the other work that I do, and I was finding myself like not able to sleep, and I was on vacation and didn't feel like I could shut down and really relax. Like my mind was just like going all the time with work and social media. So I mean, I definitely think like I get to my computer. I hate mornings. I absolutely hate them. So like I won't get to my computer until 9 a.m. unless I have a meeting scheduled. If you schedule a meeting with me at 6, sure. I'm not gonna like it, but I will get up and talk to you. But otherwise, you're not gonna see me online until 9 a.m. So really setting those strict boundaries, like I can still be just as productive and have a start and an end time to when I'm answering emails. And if you really need me, you're gonna call me most likely.
Jake, what do you think?
It comes down to strategy for me, because I'm very, very analytical, more so than I'm creative. So I don't actually spend a lot of time creating content or publishing a lot of things. I'm more in the moment. And for me, the strategy is important because a lot of times we'll tend to we'll post something and we'll want to see how it does right away in that precious 24 hours. But you don't necessarily need to know right off the bat. If you have a strategy in place for, say, the next 90 days, you can check in on something a week later and see, okay, that kind of performed, our topics this week performed, or they didn't, and then reevaluate. But you don't need to hyper-analyze every day. And one of the issues that we have is that we have so much access to data on everything that we put out there that we get lost in it. And we start losing what's important to our audience and what's important to even why we're doing it in the first place. So the strategy comes in where you're like, I want to find out which metrics or which performance indicators actually mean that we're doing well, and only focusing on that and focusing on it in intervals that make sense rather than every single day. Like, if that kind of resonates with you, let me know.
No, and I think you make a great point, but like, let's just say that you work for, because not everybody has the luxury of being their own boss, right? What happens if somebody just wants like instant results, like kind of to your point about, and the guy, I just saw that guy walk by your car. What's up, guy? You know what I mean? So like, what if somebody is just like very adamant about like having those instant results right away? I mean, do you kind of, what would you say to that?
It's an education process. Because that's just unrealistic. One of my favorite lines from Kevin Hart is, "You gotta learn today," meaning that you're gonna figure it out real quick that that's not how it works. And sorry for that. That was my best Kevin Hart impersonation. But literally, everything that you're doing on social it's a compounding interest. I mean, yeah, and that's why we get stressed out, because we know once we reach this critical mass of we're everywhere and we're doing really well and we're scheduling and we're talking to people, we just see these opportunities keep rising, and we're so terrified that if we take a break, everything's going to get cut off. And that's not necessarily true. You kind of like build, like it takes a while to like build your plot, and then when you stop, you just kind of plateau. You don't necessarily fall off the face of the planet because you weren't on LinkedIn for 10 hours today, which is what I was so scared of. If I wasn't instantly responding to every opportunity, I would just fall off the planet, and that's just not necessarily how it works.
In terms of client education, too, I feel like that's such a process. You know, as you get to know a client, there is a certain finesse and a nice way to say, like, you know, more time with this project will, you know, it'll teach us what's working best and what's not, and we'll be able to get you better results and not just instant results. But that definitely takes time, being able to coach and talk to a client.
I'll add on to this, and kind of goes along with what everyone's saying, but in my mind, you have to set those boundaries with your audience and with your actual community as well before you set them with yourself. Because, I mean, just a really easy example is if people see you responding in the AM, like I work in esports, so a lot of people that are playing these tournaments that are hosted on our site are like in the AM and in Europe and whatnot, so a lot different time zones. So I have to set those boundaries online of when I'm actually going to be replying to people and when I'm actually going to be awake or when I'm actually going to be asleep. And I think establishing with your community what those boundaries are is pretty important as well.
I like this stuff. I think one of the things for the boundaries is, like, there's moments that everybody gets so busy that you don't have time for anything. And I think those are sometimes the best times to figure out how to solve those problems. So, like, I mean, working over 80 hours a week every week since, forever, since Labor Day, I've learned to set aside 20 minutes, like 3 times a day, to go in and double check social to see if anything has happened. Have we gotten verified responses from people on Twitter? Have we gotten some customer service feedback that we need to address, like ASAP? Or was there a shared post opportunity on Twitter or any other platform? Again, it comes down to efficiency. I think you need to start. You have to be honest with yourself, both with yourself and your client, and then, like, after that with your audience, of course. Be honest about what is feasible. Like, when you wake up and you read the news and you're spending this time to see all the frontline stuff that's coming up from all these platforms, but be honest with yourself about is it even feasible? No matter how much we do, how much effort we put into this, are we going to actually make this work? Otherwise, you know what? You read it, you move on to the next thing. You have to be really smart about what you're reading and how much effort you want to put into each thing that you read every single day, because no matter what you do, there's going to be new stuff every day. We're going to be working to try to, like, impress our audience. But again, don't be stalemate, but also be honest with yourself about what you could provide your audience, and then you should not. Then you won't be overdoing it at that point. I think you'll be making steady progress as you want to be. Otherwise, you're just wasting time.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, you can jump.
Yeah, something that I found to be really effective is just considering when those limits or when those expectations are self-imposed. Like Nicole, you were talking about kind of client education, but for me here in the office, I find that a lot of it is me expecting that others want me to be instantly responsive and instantly available. But often that's not the case. That's just me trying to be all things to all people and constantly engaged. And so even just asking people like what do you expect from me in terms of responsiveness on Slack, responsiveness on email, those are more internal tools, but you can set those kind of guidelines with your external audiences too. And that's something that's helped a lot.
No, for sure, because, and again, Alicia can attest this, working in social and trying to build communities, again, to everybody's point, everybody understands this, is that, we want to try and tackle everything and anything, and it's hard. I noticed that Jacob was side-chatted that to cut notifications from your mobile. Yes.
I hate notifications and I never get them for anything.
So I will say this, like I have mobile notifications for our software, and
fair.
Yeah, I mean, like, but everybody, like, it's in for everybody, like, at different times of the night, you're just like, and there has to be a point where you're just like, no, you have a team for that. But I guess this leads me to something that segues into this. So if you do work for a team, or if you don't, how would you scale your efforts so that way everybody wins? Cedar, because I know, Cedar, you work at an agency, and I don't know how big your team is, but I know you and I discussed this, many times about how it shouldn't fall on the responsibility of one individual.
So that's really tough. I'm fortunate because I work at a very large agency. We have very, very large clients. Because I'm the only one on this team that does social, like the customer service aspect of it, there's a whole team at the corporate headquarters of my client that takes care of customer service stuff, and I'm grateful for that. But there are still a lot of things that have to be done, both for, it doesn't sound like a lot, but there's a lot of strategies that go around, the retail side of things, the in-store things, the website stuff, the email stuff, the social stuff, everything has to be aligned, so I'm always doing that stuff too. But you have to set boundaries. You have to educate people on the stuff that you're trying to get done, because sometimes your team, like some people are very fortunate that everybody around them knows the social media game. Like I, for one, am not. I have account people that I deal with that have no idea about social. My project managers sometimes don't know much about social. Even some of my creative team doesn't know that, and it's very difficult. With that comes people need to understand the responsibility that they have for social. Project managers have to be dealing with the assets that go on certain platforms. They have to make sure things are sized correctly. The creative team is getting the right information. The account team has to know that if there's feedback from the client, they have to be providing it to the creative team or myself as a strategist. Everyone has to know their role, and I wasn't as fortunate with that in the very beginning, and it all fell on me, and it was very difficult. And like you were saying, you have to say no to things, and you also have to be aware of the hours that you work in a day. Like it should be 8, at best, maybe 10 or so, I guess. But you have to be really smart about who's doing what and what your actual role is. Sometimes a lot of people like myself had fallen into that hole of who should be doing the stuff that you're actually doing.
Cedar, I'll plus one that real quick, just because I just joined this team with Battlefy. I think I'm the 16th or 17th employee, and I'm the first one that's been brought on the team to really focus on anything social media. So it's been really interesting. Like I legitimately just started 2 weeks ago, so I've had all my one-on-ones with everyone, and it's been super interesting listening to everyone and get their opinions on what we should or shouldn't be doing on social media, and realizing some people have no clue, some people have had ideas and never wanted to do anything, and that there's different parts of the company that want to have different say in what goes on our social media and how our voice should be portrayed. So I'm definitely, like I said, really plus one to what you said of everyone has to know their role, but I've also experienced that I need to know my role even more, that nobody else knows what I'm doing, and being as transparent as possible, actually being assertive and telling people I need things, even as the new guy. So yeah, I've experienced a lot of what you're talking about, so I can definitely empathize with that.
So I had a tip for being a little bit more efficient, because we're always trying to squeeze a little bit more hours into our day, which seems to be a problem. Understanding where you're lacking in responsiveness or productivity, and finding tools that can help you solve that. And it doesn't necessarily mean to be a paid tool or anything like that, but just finding processes that make you more efficient. For me, for example, I can't use Pinterest on my computer because I'm just terrible at it, but on mobile I'm really good at it. So I know when I want to do certain kinds of social media, I do it on mobile, and when I want to do other kinds of social, I always do it on web, and I don't intermix it because then I get confused, and you're usually a lot slower on mobile anyway. So when you're texting, and the game changer for me is I just bought a Mac, and now I get all my text messages on my computer, and being able to actually write with a keyboard just changed my life. And it was so simple to do that, but these little processes have just like changed how much more efficient I can be, like getting really good at Google Docs and sharing with your editors and making sure everyone understands that process so that everything's more efficient. Like you can just start streamlining everything, and investing in either free or paid tools or just understanding what your exact processes are can really go a long way in adding more hours to your day.
So I think finding the right tools to balance kind of your productivity and be more efficient with your downtime is really important. So I'd love to hear from the rest of you what you use in terms of tools to stay efficient and prevent burnout.
I'll jump in there right away. I think so. Right away in the morning, a lot of people jump on their phone right away to look at Facebook, Twitter, whatever, Instagram, whatever it might be. I like to use Feedly. Feedly is a tool that likes to, everybody should know what Feedly is. It's a curation of your certain updates that you add categories for, then you get updates from around the web. So a lot of it is social related or industry related things for my client and myself. And I jump in there right away in the morning and sometimes in the afternoon to see any new updated articles that are worth reading. Anything from the Facebook newsroom, the Twitter blog, Instagram blog. Just to see if there's any new tools out there, or if there's some new information that I could use for my clients. Things like that I think are very beneficial. I heard, Alicia, I heard you say Slack. Slack is a wonderful tool that people don't use enough. It's such a great tool for teams, and even just for even for friends, I suppose. It's just a great way to stay in contact and to get information across to people. And the GIFs on there are fun to play with too. But yeah, I think those are some of the best things that I use for productivity and to stay in line without having too much burnout.
Yeah, I think Slack is a great tool for us, but again, it's like it goes back to drawing some boundaries with it. I think when we first rolled it out, it was like a month after I started at Sprout, and while it was great and really helpful in many ways, again, it was about like defining expectations. Like you don't expect that people are on all the time. If you have something that's truly urgent, you can Slack them, but if they don't respond within a few minutes, you have to go find them. And I think a lot of people just kind of let it sit all day, and then when they have the time to attend to it, they do. So that's kind of a good lesson for any internal or external social platform.
Yeah, so Jake, I'd be interested to hear about what tools that you use that help you with productivity and burnout, to avoid burnout.
Do you really tools? Insane. In books and folders to drop down and do things. Some of which I automatically, like my LinkedIn is set to go to my profile specifically, and everything to go to like the right page in the right order. I don't use marketing automation anymore. I started with Buffer, and then Sarah actually convinced me to do Sprout. Now I do Sprout, but I don't use it for automation. I use it for audience engagement. Other tools, I mean, Google Analytics are helpful, but it's not really anything for making me more efficient. It's just seeing what's working and helping me. But yeah, I'm just totally shouting out Sprout, but literally it's one of the only ones I use, so I'm not lying about that. And I do use Feedly. I also have a folder full of just writers that I follow, like where I trust their content. So I'll go to Brian Honigman or Neil Schaefer or just content that I know I can be efficient. So I'm learning about these two folks because their content is going to be like.
Jake, I think we're losing you, buddy. But I mean, we're doing the whole Mr. Roboto thing. But we'll swing back around it. Nicole, are there any other tools that you use to help with productivity? on your day-to-day?
All of my well, not all of them, but a lot of my tools are offline. I love my therapist. I love coloring books. But in all seriousness, I write a lot about self-care and good mental health. And if you don't have that, I don't feel like you can balance productivity. So like every Tuesday, I know I've got a therapy appointment, where I can really talk out my week, talk out issues, and then I feel like I come back to my computer and I'm like, all good, not all good, but I'm pretty much good to go and I can focus again. Another tool that I just started using today that's online is called Calendly, which is a tool where like people can schedule meetings with you. So you set your availability and then they pick a time. And so I have an editorial calendar that I've put together on Google Calendars for Body Boop so that I can manage all the guest bloggers that we have. And this way they can pick their own deadline. It's awesome. I don't have to like go with all the back and forth. Well, does this look good for you? No, this looks good for It's like they know when I'm available and they pick it and we're done. So that's my favorite online tool, but I love coloring books.
Plus one of the coloring books, but I'll just list off mine. I love Trello, Slack. I used Wunderlist for like my daily to-dos. I've been using that forever. I live and die by TweetDeck and Twitter lists. I think Twitter lists are something that the general public completely underutilizes, and a lot of people don't understand the power in Twitter lists. And just being able to see what relevant people of X topic or keyword or demo, whatever, are talking about. So yeah, and then I just keep folders on my like Google Chrome of relevant websites, and I just check them every day. I think keeping it as simple as possible is really important. I have my own personal Scrum board too, which I like in my room. I actually use it for like daily tasks and work tasks, so that helps a lot too.
Sweet. Yeah, so moving on to our next question, and this is hilarious because I'm sure many of you have said this before, but if you or you know somebody who said that I was going to go on a vacation, and everybody was like, what is a vacation? Let's just say that you were to plan like a social media vacation, so just to pull yourself away from social media in general. How long should that last? Who wants to jump in? I'm intrigued to hear this.
I'll jump in. I think it should be a week. I do that once a year. So last year it was for my honeymoon, and I was in Aruba, and I was still using Instagram though, because my parents and my in-laws wanted to make sure we were still alive. But otherwise, social media vacation, I feel good at like a week or 10 days.
Coob, what's on your mind?
I was gonna say, I think it all depends on context again. Like, are you experiencing social media burnout? Maybe it should be a little bit longer than a day or two or a week. But are you like completely comfortable with where you are in your life, but you just want a little bit of a break? Maybe it's only a day or two. So yeah, it completely depends on context for me. I've personally never had, so maybe I shouldn't even answer this question since I've never actually done it since I've started like, getting on social media. But yeah, I'm definitely interested to hear what everyone else does, and maybe I'll actually take someone's advice.
Jake said 6 weeks. Anyway, okay, well, we'll get to Jake in a second, but Cedar, mute up. What do you think, buddy?
Yeah, I like the week thing as well. So last year was the first time in my life I was fortunate enough to go on a vacation outside the state, and so I went to both San Diego and San Francisco, saw the ocean for the first time. I thought I used that opportunity to get away from some of the stuff I was working on and never touch social that whole time. I do take a lot of pictures. Sometimes I do throw things on Instagram, but I don't actually scroll through anything. I think it's very important to just kind of forget everything that's behind you when you go on vacation. Nobody exists in my mind. No work exists in my mind. I tell my employees that if they contact me, they're in trouble when I get back because I'm not going to respond to anything. But it's important. I think a good week is a good time. If you need something really short and you can't go on vacation, I think maybe 3 days is good enough. But you have to seriously unplug. You have to unplug big time. Over the holiday, I'm from Wisconsin, from a small farm town, so I usually go up into the woods and just, be a lumberjack and do my thing up there and forget that the world exists. The world of technology is even around me. So But I'll tell you what, no matter how bad things are, after a week and you come back, you feel amazing. There's nothing better. It's such a good feeling. Even if you're not burnt out, just do it. It's worth everything.
I don't know if can anyone hear me?
Yeah,
Am
you're
I
good.
alive? Okay. I'm really jerry-rigging this whole situation, so I apologize. I took a 6-week hiatus about a week before Thanksgiving to January 4th. That's a little bit because I'm a solopreneur and I'm not running somebody's community channel, so this is a little bit different. I'm running a personal brand and a few client brands, nothing terribly tricky. I'm not sure if everyone can still hear me, so I'm just going to talk like a robot. If not,
We can hear you, man. We're just dying because we literally saw the sunset behind you, man.
yeah, it's majestic. You're welcome.
Yeah, we're stuck in the office,
beautiful
so
here.
thank you.
I took a break. I took a week break when I was in Maui. I am fortunately someone that can travel all the time because I primarily work remotely. As in, I've already been on 6 flights this year, and being able to set up shop in a Toyota Corolla is great. But taking the time off for me was really beneficial to just make it around the times when people are expected to take breaks, like holidays. If you can schedule your stuff out to just be, cover your bases while you're gone. Use tools to do that. You don't necessarily need to be engaging full time during Christmas Day. Like, come on, take some time off and really refresh yourself. And that break really helped. And as soon as January rolled around, all the inbound requests rolled back in, and people were back in the office.
Cool. So yeah, we're actually stretching out, but so this is one question that I haven't seen a lot of brands talk about, but I'd be interested to hear if any of you have any insight. Have you seen any brands out there on the web that have actually done a great job of advocating for detoxing from social? I mean, one of the ones that stands out for me was this quote unquote model who actually stopped Instagramming or doing photos for Instagram because it just consumed her life. And it was just interesting to see how she went from how she was just, conveying that this life wasn't her and everything was just kind of like a farce. But I'd love to hear if any of you have any insight to any brands or individuals that you've seen online who advocate for detoxing.
I'll go and say Ed Sheeran just took a year break off of all social media starting like a month or two ago after he was. I can't imagine how it is for artists who will go on tour or be on tour and be on the road, and like their social media is really high when they're on tour. So Ed Sheeran, I felt like, was on tour for so long and doing so many appearances and things, but he's taking a complete social media break for the next 11 months, I think. And he had a little extended Instagram or Twitter post about it. But I think it's really interesting when celebrities and people whose livelihood either started on or is because of social media and virality, when they actually take a break from it, it's really interesting, and I think it shows a lot of willpower that they're able to get away from it, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of brands that advocate just taking breaks, but I know brands that are successful without social specifically, like Apple, for example, isn't very active on social media, and I'm pretty sure it's still the case, but I didn't think they had a Twitter account or any presence at all, and I think they're doing just fine without it. I know some celebrities that don't have Twitters, or one that comes to mind is 4-time Formula One champion Sebastian Vettel doesn't have any social whatsoever, and his PR is fine. So there's a couple examples of people that just don't need to be active and can still find success through other channels.
Sure.
I'll jump in real quick if you don't mind. So one, I posted a link in the chat box about, I'm not sure if you guys saw the video of what it's like to have 8 million followers and what notifications would look like. It's slightly disturbing how often that goes. I work in an ad agency that has a bunch of world famous Instagrammers, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers. So to watch their phone is a little crazy. I did see AT&T do their Christmas ad with the daughter who was on her phone constantly at all these family events and nice touching moments at the dinner table, that she was always on her phone. and she could always see that her dad was not happy with it. And then for Christmas, she gave him a present, which was her phone wrapped up, saying she wasn't going to be on her phone. That was a very touching thing from an actual, company that is, their whole product is a phone. I thought that was very touching, not just during the holidays, but in general. And I'm not sure, what came of that, if there was a big push online from people, but I thought that was a very touching video.
Yeah, I think I found that family time is the biggest impetus to log off social, but it's good to extend that to time with friends, or even time alone that has nothing to do with your cell phone or social media, and literally just turn it off,
Right.
physically put it away, and get yourself very physically engaged in something so you can't even think about it. So since we're kind of rounding out our time, I wanted to see if all of you have kind of some last words on unplugging, how people can make this time for themselves, and any ways you like to do it.
How about you, Nicole?
Well, self-care, I'll shout it from the rooftops. Self-care and seeing a therapist and taking care of your mental health is number one for me. I write about it a lot on the blog, and I don't think I could do anything professionally well if I didn't have that taken care of. So a lot of my downtime and the balance that I have in my life is dedicated to bubble baths and coloring books and me time. And for other people, that looks different. That could be being social, at a bar with your friends. It doesn't matter, but just really balancing that work and that social media time with time to take care of yourself and be kind to yourself. So.
I agree that self-help thing is very important. For me, the biggest thing is having hobbies. I think, sadly, in this day and age, a lot of people don't have great hobbies that they do consistently, whether it's exercising or a lot of people go, I have a lot of photographer friends. They wander the city or they travel a lot, take a lot of pictures. I'm new to the city. I do that same thing. I wander everywhere. I check out new restaurants. I take classes, and hang out with friends too. Just keep yourself busy, because otherwise you're just going to be focusing on that stuff, and you need to get away. You need to have your mind focused on something that is going to just make you happy. And I think friends and hobbies are a great way to do that.
Yeah, I'll go. I think physical activity is huge, whether that's running or intense workouts or anything, but I think actually moving as opposed to sitting or laying is so important. Just making sure you're up and your blood flow is going and that you're getting more than just looking at a screen. And then also something super practical that I've been trying to do is going to sleep with my phone out of arm's reach. It's something super practical that I think so many people, including myself, so many people struggle with, or they just can't do, or they don't want to try. But it's something so huge that can improve your life. The little practical things like that are really huge to me. So.
Airplane mode and camping. That's one of the best ways I get out. I like to hike. Airplane mode, and I do this thing. I have an old film camera, and figuring out how to develop film and do stuff kind of the old-fashioned way is kind of one form of meditation. And yoga is great too, but that's for another story.
Awesome. Do you have any last minute tips for our audience?
No, I think these were all great ideas. Pretty much the same stuff I would do. Things that really require you to be physically engaged and present. So yoga, bouldering, hiking, or being with people who are going to keep, people who you care about, and developing those relationships in a face-to-face way.
Yeah, and I can totally attest to everything that you all said, especially Coob. When you mentioned the whole phone within reach in bed, I can't even tell you how much sleep I've lost just because I had my phone within arm's reach. I literally want to just I should literally just lock my phone away at night, but it's easier said than done, right? So small steps.
You can always buy a terrible old-fashioned alarm clock, the kind that just, because that's what I have now, and I'll bring my phone to my room, and it's great.
Awesome. I think that's pretty much it for us. But
awesome.
Analysts, we're talking about awesome topic. I'm going to kick it back over to Dom. You look like you're
Thanks, man. This was really, really illuminating, and we had a lot of great stuff there. Self-care. This is a topic that we all deal with, that we all feel, and this is a conversation that obviously we should keep on talking about. There's a lot of articles, there's a lot of good stuff out there, so feel free to keep that conversation going with everybody on the panel. I know them all, and I'm sure that they would love to keep on talking with you. So we are nearing the home stretch, ladies and gentlemen, so thank you so much for tuning in here, and we look forward to seeing you again in about 10 minutes for our third to last panel.
Yes.
Woo.
Got it.
See you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.